Most people thought this was just another creepy internet story. But when users started checking the details, one thing didn't make sense. The video had already been online for years, and nobody knew who uploaded it. It surfaced on a dead forum in 2019, buried in a thread about New England folklore. No channel name, no profile picture, just a grainy scan of a newspaper clipping dated 1892, with a caption that read, "They dug her up to stop her from feeding." I remember the first time I opened it. The upload date said 1 year, the site's own metadata said another, and the account that posted it had been deleted before the video ever went live. A handful of replies further down the thread said the same strange thing, that the clipping had appeared in their recommendations, right after they'd been talking about someone who'd recently died. That's when I started looking into what the clipping actually described. Exeter, Rhode Island, a small farming town where families lived close, worked hard, and buried their own within sight of the house they were born in. In the winter of 1892, George Brown was a father like any other, a wife, 4 children, a modest home on a quiet road. Nothing about the Browns stood out, and that was the point. Consumption, what we now call tuberculosis, was already killing thousands of New England families every year, moving from parent to child to sibling in the same house. Nobody thought much of a cough. Nobody thought much of a fever. It was just part of living in a cold, crowded home through winter. It started with Mary Eliza, George's wife. She grew tired, pale, then suddenly she was gone. I noticed something in the records that most people skip past. Mary Eliza died first in 1883. Her oldest daughter, Mary Olive, followed less than a year later. 2 deaths in one household wasn't unusual for the time. Plenty of families in the region buried more than one child to the same illness within a single winter. But there was something else. Before she died, Mary Olive told people she could feel something sitting on her chest at night, pressing the air out of her lungs, holding her down until morning. At the time, nobody connected it to anything. It was just what dying felt like. That's what everyone told themselves. I had no idea how far that belief actually went until I read what happened next. Neighbors began whispering that consumption didn't spread through coughing or close contact at all. They believed it spread because someone already buried was still feeding on the living, drawing the life out of whoever they'd loved most. George Brown didn't believe it, not at first. He kept working, kept living, kept telling himself it was just sickness, the way it had always been, the way it had taken half the families on his road. Sickness doesn't usually come back for seconds. Exeter wasn't even the first town to do this. By 1892, families across Connecticut and rural Rhode Island had already dug up more than a dozen bodies over the same fear, going back decades. Doctors wrote about it, newspapers mocked it, and still, when it was your own child dying in the next room, none of that seemed to matter. In 1891, George's youngest daughter, Mercy Lena, died too. 19 years old, she was buried in the same above-ground crypt as her mother and sister, and for a while, that was the end of it. A grieving father, 3 graves, a town that quietly moved on. Then Edwin got sick. Edwin was George's only son, the one person Exeter had left to lose. And when his cough turned to fever, the town stopped whispering and started talking directly to George. Neighbors told him plainly, someone in that crypt wasn't resting. Someone was still feeding, and it wouldn't stop until Edwin was gone too. At this point, George had already buried a wife and 2 daughters. He wasn't willing to bury his son as well. If stories like this keep you up at night, this is a good time to subscribe. because this one doesn't end where you think it does. In March of 1892, a group of neighbors and a local doctor gathered at the cemetery and opened the crypt. What they found there is still debated by historians today. Mary Eliza and Mary Olive, dead for years, looked exactly like you'd expect. Bone, decay, nothing unusual. Then they opened Mercy's coffin. She'd only been buried a few months through a cold New England winter, inside an above-ground crypt that never fully thawed. Doctors today can tell you exactly why a body would still look preserved under those conditions. But the men standing there in 1892 didn't have that explanation. I could see it clearly once I read the account. A girl who looked like she'd simply fallen asleep, skin still soft, hair still full. And when they opened her chest, they found blood still pooled inside her heart. That's when the crowd made its decision. They cut the heart and liver out of Mercy's body right there in the cemetery and immediately burned them to ash on a nearby rock while her father watched. Then they mixed what remained into a medicine and gave it to Edwin to drink. Because if Mercy really was the thing feeding on him, this was supposed to end it. I keep coming back to that image. A father already broken, standing over a fire built from his daughter's remains, hoping it would save the one child he had left. Edwin drank the mixture. 2 months later, he died anyway. To this day, historians consider the Exeter case one of the last confirmed vampire exhumations in American history. Mercy Brown's grave still stands in Exeter, and people still leave things at it. Coins, flowers, letters addressed to a girl who's been dead for over a century. I thought it was over. Just a tragic, well-documented piece of history I could close the tab on and move past. Then I went back to the forum to find the account that had posted the original video. It didn't just have no history, it had been created and deleted on the same day, a day that, according to the site's own logs, was before that forum existed at all. I knew right away something was wrong, but I didn't know how to explain it. The next thing I saw was worse. The video's view count, which should have been frozen for years, ticking upward while I sat there watching it, one number at a time. I closed the laptop and I got the hell out of there. The video is still online right now if you know where to look. Nobody has claimed it, nobody has taken it down, and every so often someone in the comments swears the caption changes depending on who's watching. If this is your first time here, this channel exists for stories exactly like this one. The ones history tried to bury and the internet keeps digging back up. Subscribe if you want to be there for the next one, because it doesn't have a body count. It has a disappearance nobody has ever explained, and a photograph that keeps turning up in places it was never taken.